Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Right by grace, you're always right on time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Ooh, our guest speaker is right on time. Hello, Mamo. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good day, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. My name is Brenda Unu. I'll be your host on today's show. And we're here talking about raising non-conformist kids. Since our speaker is right on time, we should not waste her time. Let's just get her right in. Position. Who's excited to be here today? Who's excited to hear? Today I brought my mentor to you people. Hey, see my mama now. Come on. Hello. You are so lovely. Such a sight for sore eyes. Who they breathe sunshine, shout it louder. Welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome. I'm
you.
so excited
Thank
to have you here. Thank you so
you.
much. Thank you so much for joining us. I see our people are joining. Correct, correct. All of you join. Because it's going to be an interesting conversation today. I trust that the Holy Spirit would have sent you word for our people and we will do justice to this topic today. So, welcome. Let me first of all introduce my eminent speaker. Hey. Oh God, let me sit well. Today I have with me on the show Temitope Olagbegi, who is, you can start, you've seen, start calling her Mamo now. Her people are joining, they are joining. She's a pastor with the Elevation Church in London. She's also the CEO of Six Sense Interiors. She's also a British licensed counselor. She does marriage counseling. In fact, the story is plenty. But today, she's here on our hot seat because she's the wife. She's been a wife for like 23 years and she's a mother of 3 young adults. So this parenting business, she's been there, done that, bought a t-shirt. And we're going to ask her to share with us today, what it is. She was parenting in the days when Gen Zs were starting. We at least we already have some knowledge we're seeing from them. We're learning and everything. But imagine her parenting when nobody knew what Gen Z was. Nobody knew why are this set of children so different. And she's gone through all of that. She now has adult kids, and she's here to share with us what we can do. How do we just get through this thing? Because so much is going on in the world. There's so much distraction for our children, so many things grabbing their attention in different directions. You are saying one thing at home, they're hearing another thing from their friends, and it's just so much. And sometimes you feel like you're speaking to a brick wall, and I just called her here to share she's my own personal family life mentor. So I brought her, so you're going to be hearing from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So welcome, Mamo. Welcome. We're so excited
Thank
to have
you. Thank you. I hope my volume is
Yes,
good.
it's good. We can
Thank
hear
you
you.
for the amazing introduction. And I can't start having a conversation without commending you for taking the bold step to bring women together under an umbrella, to disseminate information. It takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of grace. And so, gut, grit, and grace,
Whoosh.
what you've got, Brenda, and
Thank you.
well done. And my prayer over this house is that it will be a space of continuous learning, and by the grace and help of God, our learnings will not fall to the ground. Our learnings, would impact our families, it will impact the world at large. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Yes. All
you.
right. You promised me it was easy conversation, but
I
you're
know that
going
you
for
are
the
ready
jugular.
anytime. But
Yeah,
but what I said was that it was going to be it's not scripted. We just
yeah.
have a conversation, right? So it's just very easy conversation. Basically, we want to know. First of all this big grandma that is in the title is Femi. Oh, that was Femi. Femi was the one who gave us this big title. So thank you so much. We said, what does it mean, to raise non-conformist kids? I mean, when you saw the topic, what was the first thing that came to your mind? What was your first thought?
The first thing that came to my mind was agency. Raising kids who are autonomous, raising children who don't conform to status quo, raising children who have the ability to think for themselves, who are able to balance what society is saying, what God is saying, what culture is saying, and are able to, as a result, come up with what they would like to do. Yes. So that is what being non-conformist is, and the world denotes it as being something negative, but I don't see it as being anything negative when there is the balance and the walls of reason, spiritual grounding, good parenting. Yeah. Yes. And so we're raising children who are in the digital age, and that is something that we need to come to grips with.
Absolutely.
We're not raising children who were born in our times. And what I say to parents is that we need to get on board.
Absolutely.
Yes, we need to get on board. The world is not going back. We are going forward. And as a result, our parenting style, the lens through which we see things needs to be shaped for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and when you were speaking, I was like, hey, see, someone has already told me there that my value is already started. We've already started having value. We're just on the 7th minute of the life. You guys should strap your seat belt. I've told you that this is my own mentor that is speaking. So get ready. Just get your notebooks, be writing. Because she's value upon value. Okay, so I like what you said, about, people thinking that this being non-conformist is a bad thing. Because it truly isn't. I mean, we need to raise children who are independent, who know what they're about. But the thing is that children come into the world as they say, as an empty slate, right? Is it really true? Do they come as an empty slate, or do they already come with their own, their own principles, their own form? Do they come with their own personality, or do they pick it up as they grow? What do you think about that?
There are two sides to this coin, and I don't believe that children come with an empty slate.
Okay.
All right. They have put two children, same family values, same family setup. Why do they act different? Okay. And so, so many times, children have come encoded with their personalities. Sometimes they come encoded with their purpose by God. They've come encoded already. And so, I don't believe that children come on with an empty slate. What I call it a two-sided coin is that they have come with something, but we have a responsibility, and the responsibility is to shape what it is that they've come with. Yes. The responsibility we have as parents is to come into an understanding of what each of the children that God has blessed us with, all right, come into this world with. So more often than not, we want children to fit into pre-dug holes. Yes. All right. But we have the responsibility of understanding what God's purpose is for the child. Yes. Understanding what the child has been, I like to use the word encoded with. Yes. All right. And so we do as much learning as much as the child does learning. So it's like a two-way street. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that you said that they don't come empty, because honestly, I had a struggle with that. Like, children come to the world empty, even though they come needing guidance. We've been told that there's nature and nurture. They do come with nature. They come with their own nature. They come with their own personality. So the job of parenting is now to shape that personality, shape that everything that the child came with to be able to fit into the purpose that God desired for the child. Because just imagine if a child came that was such a a great singer, for example, and the child got into a home where they're like, "Hey, stop singing! You're making noise, or you're disturbing the house. Can you just be quiet in this house? We read, we study, we are studious people. We don't want noise." And the child has been shut down so many times that by the time they even get to church, where maybe they could have joined the choir, they can't, because in this house we are quiet, we're studious, we're this, we're that. In fact, we come from a long line of lawyers. Everybody is studious. You must get your A's, and so the child is cramped. My child, by the time child gets old enough to think, oh, maybe I could try singing, the time has passed. She can't find her voice anymore.
True.
And so it doesn't remove the fact that God had built that child to be a singer. It's just now that bad or not, should I call it bad parenting? I'll say ineffective parenting
Effect.
has robbed the child of what they could have been. We have so many stories of that. I mean, just the other day I was reading a story about a footballer. The AFCON just finished, and Captain Ekong, Truth Ekong, the mixed race guy. I heard that he was born to, I don't remember the country his mom is from, but his father is Nigerian, and he had wanted to play football from a young age. And every time he went out to play, the father would grab him and flog him and keep him back in the house and say, "You must read. No football. That's not the kind of thing that you should do." When he was about 12 or so, he went to the UK for study. And the boy left the school they sent him to. I went to go enroll in a football academy. The father heard and he disowned him. I mean, he's just been struggling to do this football, and all of a sudden, I mean, there he was on the global stage, and everybody was now hailing him. Of course, I think he had made up with his father by this time. But just imagine if he did not have enough, grit to push through what he believed he was built for. So yes, so it's important that we know our own children. I mean, you said it that we should learn. There's a learning thing on both sides. It's important that we know the child we are raising. Many of us have these preconceived notions in our head of what we want our children to be. Well, we want them to be like this, like that, and then we're busy raising them to what we want them to be.
Right.
Meanwhile, somebody recently explained to me that train up a child in the way that he should go, not in the way that you want him to go. And I found that very, what do you think about that verse? I heard it being preached by somebody, and I was like, okay, Pastor T, you're a pastor, tell us, what do you think?
It's the interpretation of that scripture is different to different
Yeah.
people, but I use the scripture a lot. I used it for myself in the early years because I did realize that the scripture said train up a child. And I say it very often, the scripture didn't say train up a teenager or an adult. It says train up a child. And so the responsibility that is on us is actually in the formative years of the child.
Right.
Yes, that is the time when they are like sponges, and one is they're more malleable at this time.
Right.
Yeah. And so train up a child in the way that he should go, and in the end he would not depart from it. And I suppose there are guiding principles,
Yeah.
and I'm going to tie this to something that I had always said, that when God was bringing children into the world, he could have designed um, um, the birth process, differently. It could have been you wake up and then you just see
You're
children on.
grown.
You
You just
understand? Yeah, they
pluck
just
a child
sprout,
and go on.
yeah. But then he says that, he put the solitude in families. You know, there's a reason why children are brought up in families. All right. There is a measure of investment, all
Right.
right, that being brought up in a particular family, right, is meant to incite,
Produce.
produce. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. And so when you say train up a child in the way of the Lord, it is first that the solitude is brought into family. All right. You invest in knowing what God's will and purpose is, like I said, for the child.
Child.
All right. And it is as a result of that, you nurture the child in the way God has designed for the child to go.
Right.
It is also why a parent cannot be successful at parenting if one thinks that it can be done outside of God. You know,
Loud.
so many times we leave our parenting to head knowledge. We leave our parenting to what's obtainable at school. We leave our parenting to what culture, tradition, society is saying. All right. However, because children have been pre-encoded, all right,
By God.
by God, all right, He is the one that we ought to be looking to for how to train the child. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is only as a result of communicating with God that we are able to decipher when there's a gift, decipher when it's a talent that can be pursued. It is only when we are hearing from God, we have the impetus to, enroll the child in horse riding, perhaps even a talent that the child has not demonstrated.
Right.
Yeah. And so communing with God is what, we often see some things as, oh, I just enrolled my child in a particular school and the school offered horse riding, or offered cricket or hockey. All right. But
Out of the way
it,
things.
it, it isn't, the steps of the righteous, the Bible says, have been ordered by God. And so he knows what it is that he wants, wherever it is that we've enrolled our child to produce for us. Yes,
Especially when you walk
when
with
you're
him. You didn't
walking
just
with him.
carry your
Yeah,
head and enter, okay, this is the raining school now, so that's where we are going.
exactly. And so the parenting journey is one that we're walking in tandem with God.
Good God.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I've heard people say that, children are different, so you should employ different strategies for each child. I'd like to know, how does that work? I mean, if you have a family of like three, I know you have three children and each of them is different, and you're not thinking, okay, different strategies for each child, yet you must have a certain code of values or a code of something in your home. How do we marry the two? If one child is just this sort of way, the other one is that sort of way, and you are saying, okay, this is how we are in our house, for example. I mean, how do you marry it? Sometimes it just feels like you're tearing out your hair.
Trust me, some mothers do have them.
I know.
And I'm one of them. Um, and so what I'm going to say to this is, I want us to lay the foundation before we begin to talk about the children and their personalities.
Okay.
And what I mean by this is, what is the child coming into? I know that this focus is on the child, but it's very important for us to lay some foundational ground rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
if there are no standards, okay, it is quite easy to miss the different personalities, God's purpose, and all of that. All of those become jargon, right? If you haven't or do not have foundational standards.
Standards, right.
What are foundational standards? What is your family system producing?
Okay.
What is your working model? What is your family life about? Who are you? Who is your partner? And by this I mean husband or wife. Yeah.
We have to be
If
clear.
those, if that, yes, we've got to be clear. If that foundation is not set, what then are the children coming into?
True. I mean, it's like we say this even in the workplace, right? When you have a new staff, you must have orientation. You must have a staff handbook, employee handbook, and so that they know what they're coming into. There's a
Right.
set of SOP, standard operating procedure, that you give them so they know exactly how to work and you can predict how they're going to work. So you're saying that in the same way, in a family, before you bring your child into the family, you must have something. right? You must have some ground rules.
Yes.
What is the child coming into, or are we just playing it by the ear? You know, many of us play it by the ear. Many of us play by the ear. You know how we now start to say there is no manual for parenting. We'll not be shouting it. There is no parenting has no manual. We are joking, right? We're joking.
And so, as people, have you worked on yourself? Do you know yourself? It's funny when I hear people say, we want to understand our child when you haven't understood you.
Yourself.
You need to hack you first before you can hack another human being. So,
Absolutely.
have you come to the understanding of who you are, who your partner is, how you work together, the dynamics that obtains between you both before you then think of hacking your children? And so, more often than not, parents are caught in that mix. They're raising children, all right, alongside trying to come into an understanding of self. It is tough. And that is sometimes what makes parenting tedious. Yeah.
So do you now recommend that, when somebody gets married, you take some time out to understand yourselves first before you start bringing children into the family?
Oh, well,
what would you think of that?
I do not have an opinion on how long it should take before people bring in individuals into the world. That is between husband and wife, what God is the one who ordains those times.
Absolutely.
All right. But the work actually starts before you get married.
Before you get married.
Yes. Yeah. There's a reason why people court before they get married.
True.
And as such, what are the dynamics obtainable in your relationship? Because it's what it is that you have preset in your relationship that you bring into marriage.
Married. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
And so the journey does not really start when you say I do. The journey has started long before then. Yeah. And so the children have now come, and you pretty much they're not sacrosanct. You can tweak things, but you pretty much have rules.
Yeah.
You pretty much have a working model, I like to call it, that yourself and your partner are operating by.
Right.
Yeah. What does faith look like? What does it represent? In a lot of families, there's still a lot of contemplation there. Yeah. Are we of faith? Are we faithless? You understand? Yeah. There's still all of that going on. I then ask, how won't the receiving of faith be tedious
To the children.
to the child? Do you see what I mean? Yes.
My 10-year-old son asked me the other day on the drive to school, Mommy, does a child get their faith from their father or their mother? And I was like,
that's a deep thinker.
I was like, where do I start from this question? And I said to him, to be honest, a child gets their identity from their father, but when it comes to faith, because I was speaking to them, okay, I know why he asked the question. So I was speaking to them about, they need to build their faith, that they are boys, and they're going to be the priests of their home. So it was important that they understood who they were in Christ. And so that was the conversation I was having when he now asked that question. So I said to him that, well, the truth is that children get their identity from their father, right? But when the father is not strong and not grounded, that is when they take the mother's identity. When the father is not the priest of the home, is not grounded as the priest of the home, is not leading in spiritual matters, that is when they follow their mother. Because women by nature are spiritual, they are prayerful, they are all of that. So I hope I answered him well. I'm just reporting myself.
Yeah. And so, as we talk about, children with different personalities, okay, you see yourself first, then you can see your child. And in seeing yourself, children, they say that a leaf doesn't fall too far from the tree. When you see yourself, you're able to identify certain weaknesses. You're able to identify certain strengths that perhaps the child has taken from either parent. Yeah. In understanding you're better able to then work with the child. What did you do to
It's like an
overcome this
X-ray. It's like you're getting an extra.
Exactly. And this is why it is really important that we come into an understanding
Understanding
of
of
self.
ourselves. Mm,
Yes.
I like that. I mean, I heard someone say that parenting is first about you,
Mhm.
and that is why it's called parenting. It's what you are
Yeah.
doing. It's not about the child. When you go about say, "Oh, my children make me scream. My children make me this." Hello, ma, you are the one that is out of control. So it is first about you. So you have to first of all understand yourself. Understand your weaknesses. If you need help, get help. If you're dealing with trauma, get help for your trauma. Whatever it is that is happening with you, deal with it so that you can bring a whole person into the parenting and you do not damage your children, because as they say, hurt people hurt others. So you want to really know yourself. And I like what you said about knowing yourself, so you know your weaknesses and co. I remember that I was when I used to have a go at my teenage daughter all the time, like I'm like, this child is getting to me. When I sat down and I thought about it, I said, God, you really have to help me with the child. I mean, I'm having it up to here. I realized, when I sat down to think about it, I realized that part of the things that she was doing that was getting to me were things that I had done. And I think that it was the similarity to me that was getting to me. Almost like, where is this coming from? And I was also thinking, some of the things she was saying, I couldn't get away with my mother. And I'm like, how dare she? I was almost jealous of her for being able to voice some things that I dared not voice in my time. But when I sat down, I thought about it and I saw where it was coming from. I was not better able to deal with it. I was not able to say, okay, Brenda, first of all, it's not about you. Calm down, relax, and let's help this child. So I started to speak to her in terms of, okay, so this, I know where you're going with this. Hello, I've been there, done that. So here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to navigate this. And we started having those conversations and it has become easier. So I will come back to our topic. And we talked about raising non-conforming kids. I find that they say that children that once you're about the age of 10, your parents' voice is no longer the loudest in your ear, that it's now friends. How do we then make sure that our children in those first few years, like you said, we've raised them such that when they start to listen to friends, they become the influencers and not the influenced? I mean, is there anything that we can do to just avoid
So
this?
a lot of parents need to learn the psychosocial development stages of life. And when they do learn it, they would then see how to, information is power.
Mm.
You learn certain things, and what we do, let me say this using an example. We
Okay.
know that a girl child would see her period by the time she's like, if she's early, maybe 9, 10. And so by the age of 8, we go
Mm.
ahead to then speak to the child,
About
teach
what
the
to expect.
child.
Mm.
That's exactly how it should work when appropriate parenting is being done.
Mm.
All right?
Yeah.
A parent has understood the psychosocial developmental stages of life, and you know what to expect when the child hits certain
Right.
milestones. Okay? Yeah. Our job is to ensure that we are preparing our children for those
Stages.
stages. All right. So, for example, we know that the child is going into secondary school at the age of 10. Around that time, the voice of the parent becomes muted to
Mm.
them. All right. And the voice of friends become amplified. The voice
Mm.
of friends as well as social media
Right.
becomes amplified. How are we helping our children before they get to that stage? What's the quality of conversations that are being had
Mm.
with the child prior to the stage? So what happens more often than not is that we are not being proactive.
Yes, we're rather
Yes.
being reactive.
It's reactive parenting. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Always struggling and playing catch up. The child,
Catch up.
exhibits something, and you're like, "Hey, where did this come from?" You're not running, and it's such a tedious race because you just can never catch up with it. So I like what you said there. We have to know the stages, and you use one big English. Psycho what?
Psychosocial development stages.
Okay. Psychosocial development stages. So you need to prepare, and so that you're basically ahead of the curve. If you know what is coming next, you're able to prepare the child, prepare yourself, and everybody just waltz into it. And I really like that, because I remember I was lamenting somebody the other day, teenage years, this and that, and she said to me, teenage years, my daughter's a teenager, I'm not even feeling anything. I'm like, is it like how? I started to ask questions, and because that was when my first daughter was a teenager, and I felt so unprepared. It just happened, to me, and of course I had to take the lessons, and I'm now being very deliberate with the others. And so, how do we help parents who, with the firstborns, they're almost clueless, so they don't just know what's happening. I mean, nowadays there's a lot of help. There's a lot of help. There are parenting courses, there are parenting books, a lot of things. But it wasn't always this way. There was once upon a time when people didn't really know what to do. They were just playing it by the ear. Many of us were doing how we were raised, how we were raising children, all of that. What do you say to a woman who is having her first child and has nothing to go by, and just wants to just say, by the grace of God, this child will be okay? What do you think are practical things that she can do?
Practical things that she can do. I'd say first, have an understanding of how you were raised. All right. Right? Because there are two things that happen with the way we're raised. We either mimic it or we run in the opposite direction.
Complete.
And so
Yes.
have an understanding as to why you're mimicking or perhaps why you're running in the opposite direction. Okay? Yeah. And many times what we want to do, however we were raised, is to find the merit in how we were raised,
Okay.
understand the challenges with how we were raised, all right? Because we're most often interacting with the challenges, all right?
And we're leaving
And
out
we leave out the
the
merit.
merit.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And this is why it's important that we sit with ourselves to understand what is causing the inner conflict with how you were raised. The flip side of this is also come to a place where you may love the way you were raised, but are you objective enough to see that there could be
It could have been better.
potential challenges with how you were raised? Right? So that's the first job that we have.
So just sit and analyze how you were raised,
Yes.
so you know what to take out of it and what
Yeah.
to discard.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And in sitting with oneself, the second other thing I was going to say is you need to sit with your partner, because we most times daddy raises in a certain way, mommy raises in a certain way, and I'm going to come to the merit of there being a difference, all right? But what I'm particular about is coming to the understanding of why. So this is not I was raised better, you turned out worse. That's not the
Yeah.
debate here. The debate is, why has this person also adopted this style? And how can we complement each other?
Each other.
You see, our inability, people say, I love my child, I love my child, I love my child. The honest truth is that, how do you say you love your child but are unable to invest in quality conversations as it pertains to raising that child? I
And this is
love
not
my
with the
child,
child,
I
though.
love my
It's not
child.
the conversations are not with the
Exactly.
child, though.
But then we can't sit down for 30 minutes to talk to one spouse about, and in a bid to understand why they think the way they do. I want to understand what parenting for you was like. I want to understand how your daddy raised you, how your mommy, what did you like, what didn't you like. These are conversations that we should have because we claim to love our children. Yeah.
Very
A
important.
lot of
Very important.
children are convoluted because they're mixed
They are
signals.
pulled in
You
different
understand?
directions.
Yes. And so as an individual, All right? Your daddy and your mommy's voice is still in you. Your spouse, daddy and mommy is there. So combined with the two of you, there are like 6 people raising this child. I think we're frozen. Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So I was saying that there are a combination of 6 people raising the child, 6 different voices. Do you understand? Yeah. How
Yes.
do we narrow these voices down to God's voice on the inside of us? Do you understand? Taking the merit of both parties' upbringing. Okay?
I,
Yeah.
I mean that I have never thought about it that way, of the 6 people trying to raise a child. Because I remember that in the beginning part of our marriage, my husband and I used to really have a go at each other. Like, you don't do this, we don't do that, we do this, we do that. And it happens with most new couples, I'd say, except those that have been intentional enough to have the conversation before marriage. Otherwise, when the child comes, you just find that your parenting styles are so different, and you start to wonder, oh, you don't even love this child. That's why you're doing like this and all of that. So I find my whole mindset about everything changed when I read somewhere that you have to remember that you're a team. You know, this man does not hate the child. Neither does this your wife hate the child. Whatever they're doing is based on the knowledge that they have. If you have better knowledge, you need to show, and not, don't spend all the time. Are you frozen?
I'm not frozen.
Okay. So whatever knowledge you think you may have that is better is not. This is not the time to start saying, me, I know better, or me, see, I turned out better. It's not. That's not how to get them, to a meeting point. So it's important to have the conversations. My question to you would be, how do you suggest that people have those conversations and it doesn't turn out being confrontational? You know how women always kind of feel like, they spend time maybe in church or in other places, maybe, taking courses here and there. They feel like, I have knowledge, so I want to tell this man that I know the better way. But, that never works out well when you come at it in that way. So how do you suggest that we do it, to explain a better way that we have seen, or how do we cope when his way is totally different from ours? I don't know if I've asked like 3 questions in one, but I hope you get me.
And perhaps therein lies the challenge, because why have we assumed that the woman is the one who knows the better way?
It's a thing. Like, you used to tell us that there was something we used to call spiritual pride, where we almost feel like, because I'm the one reading Bible, I'm the one that is praying, so I'm the one that knows. It's me that God is talking to, so I know these things. But sometimes, and because we women think that because we are vocal, because we're taking courses, because we're doing self development, we feel like we know better.
Yeah.
And it's a very bad behavior, honestly speaking. Let's just be honest, it's bad behavior.
I like to enter conversations with curiosity. And that is what it is that I'm going to put out there for people who are contemplating having conversations with their partners on anything, whether raising a child, finances, whatever. Can you come into the conversation curious? When we come into conversations curious, what happens is that our disposition speaks of wanting to learn, and if you come into a conversation wanting to learn, it means that you've come in with no airs, you've come in with no agenda. Yeah. If we can learn to come into conversations on every matter, but more so the important issues, curious. Yeah,
I like that.
we would find that we would hear, and communication is 2 ways. All right, we communicate verbally and non-verbally, but what speaks louder for most of us is our non-verbal. Yeah, our non-verbal cues are very loud.
Very loud.
And so, yeah, and so just say, you practically said, I don't agree with what you said. What you're saying is nonsense.
Rubbish.
Exactly.
Does
But
it even
when
make
you're
sense
coming
to
in
you?
serious, the other party as well sees that, this is not
It's not a war. It's not a
it's not
fight.
a war. Exactly. Okay, she's willing and open to hear what it is that I have to say. My opinion is valued. Yeah. Why a lot of couples have issues where one party isn't changing is because they feel they need to make a point.
Point.
And it's heartbreaking because we are making points to each other at the expense
Detriment of our
of the
children.
children.
Mamu has turned this into marriage counseling. You have finished me.
No, 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 no.
But there was something you said that was very, very instructive, as in coming to every important conversation with curiosity. Honestly, I remember, I recall a situation when I did that recently, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I had wanted to go somewhere, and I told my husband about it, and he said a flat no. I was like, hello, sir, what happened? I'm paying. I didn't ask you to bring money. I'm just informing you that I'm going. And he said, you're not going anywhere. And I felt so bad because I was like, come on, you go everywhere you want. I've never questioned you once. Why can't I go to this place? So I was really upset, but I refrained from speaking. I've learned to refrain from speaking when I'm upset. So I went away. And after a while, I stewed. When I calmed down, I spoke to the Holy Spirit and said, you know what? I don't know why your son is like this, but I'm not happy. And I really want to know what to do. So after I'd calmed down, maybe it was the Holy Spirit that gave me that strategy. I honestly don't know. I can't recall. But I went to him and I said, I really would like to know why you don't want me to go to this place. And he now started to think about it. He actually realized I had no reason. Yeah. So we started to think about it, and I was like, okay, tell me, is there anything that you want to know more about the event or something? Is there any more information you would like me to share, just so that you can make a decision better? I just want to know why you said no. Is there anything so I can enlighten you more? By the time we finished talking, it's like, I can see you want to go. Just go. Nothing I will say will make you not go. Because he realized I had no real reason. But it was a game changer for me, because me of before, I would have come to say, what? You can't tell me what to do. So because you said I'm not going, that's exactly where I would go. And then it will not become quarrel. It will not become, it would just really deteriorate very fast and all of that. So, and that's why I like the way that you said it, and I'm going to take it and do it for many other things. In fact, I have a lineup of conversations that I'm going to go into curiously. So that's a very good tip. Thank you very much. Who is this Ras girl in my comment section?
Awesome here.
Welcome, sis. Oh wow, I'm completely enjoying this conversation. But we have some questions. So let us go to the questions before. Or do you think should we go to the questions, or you have more you want to just tell us, because I'm
No, no,
enjoying
no. The questions would open.
Okay. So because I'm enjoying this conversation today. All right. So Orade is asking, how can we start the conversations during courtship rather than waiting till when the children get here in marriage?
As with every important conversation, parenting is a huge conversation, and as such, it must be had.
Absolutely.
And it's the reason why it's called courtship is because it's the upgrade to dating. It's the terminology changes because at this point you know that you want to be married, and you are doing the foundational groundwork for how you want your marriage to be.
Right.
As with every important thing that would happen in your marriage, all right, the groundwork needs to be done while dating. All
True.
right. And so I also feel that it's like what qualifies you to be married if you are unable to come into conversations with ease? If you need to, if you're second guessing talking to your partner about certain things, that in itself is a telltale sign that there
People are not supposed to be married.
there's still
Well,
work to be done. Yeah,
extend your courtship.
exactly. All right, but breathing in and out of key conversations is a byproduct of being elevated to courtship. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay, I get that. So once you're able to breathe in and out of difficult conversations, you're able to have the conversations, and you're not you're not stiff-necked, or you're not feeling agitated before you have a conversation. You know that you've now elevated to courtship.
Yes.
Right. Got that. Got that. If you have questions, please put them in the question tab so I don't lose them in the chats. Okay, Inke Inke, sorry if I did not pronounce your name well. She asked, how do you help a 13-year-old who doesn't have a healthy self-esteem and is almost always angry and defensive? How do you help a 13-year-old who doesn't have a healthy self-esteem and is almost always angry and defensive?
Okay. And, like I said before, when we're faced with challenges, we need to understand the root. You can help a child with everything to overcome a situation, all right? But, you can deal with the presenting issues, but if the perpetuating issues are still there, you would only circle back, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so it's very important to understand how this low self-esteem came about. A lot of children react to their parents' marriages, whether we like to believe it or not.
True.
So the feeling of worthiness has a lot to do with how much value is placed on the child by either or both parents. Does the child feel, because a healthy self-esteem comes from healthy family setup,
Absolutely.
does the child feel that they're regarded, they're being seen and heard by either or both parents? If that isn't resolved, so a child, for example, that's being told, shut up, what do you know? Okay? Parents don't see it as being responsible, partly responsible for how a child's sense of self-worth is built. Do you stop to listen to the child? Yeah. Are the child's needs and concerns things that, prompt or spur the parent to act? Okay? Those are the things that say to a child, you have value. Yeah. And if those things are not resolved, then every other thing that one tends to do will fall short, because the root reason for how this low self-esteem is developed hasn't been dealt with. Yes. Okay. And so there's several things that a parent can do, to help the child. You want to look at it from the social context. Okay. Yeah. Perhaps the child feels, not good enough as a result of peer pressure. Yeah. Look at the setting that the child has been placed in. There's so many things that we can talk about, but and the things are so varied that to focus on it without first understanding how there, all right, wouldn't do justice to answering this question. How did the child develop low self-esteem?
So I think that the answer, the short answer to that question would be find out exactly what the root
Look
cause
inwards.
of
Yeah.
yeah, look inwards. Is it you? I mean, I found that a lady was sharing me the other day that her child failed an exam in university and was so distraught. The child had been, top of the class for many years, all her life. And she was wondering why child was so distraught. Like, hello, and see, people fail now. As in, can you just get over it? But when the child started to go into therapy, she found out that she said sometime when she was like in maybe primary one, year 1 or 2, really small class like that. So she had gone to her school for open day, and the child had said something about, she had asked her, no, maybe the child got 95 or something like that. And while everybody was hailing her, she had said, the remaining 5 marks, who did you leave it for? Federal government? It was a casual statements that, the way they used to say to us, the people that had first, today have two heads. So it was that kind of casual statement that she made for a child at that age. She was I mean, like 6 or 7 years old. That also was playing in the child's head when she failed a course in the university, and she started to think that because after that time the child was consistently topping her class, and she just thought, oh, this child is a very brilliant child. She didn't realize that she had spoken and maybe put in a level of perfection that was unreal, so that the time the child did not meet that perfection, she crumbled. So many times there's some things we say casually. We think that we're just, it's just what we say now. It's not Nigeria. We know how we say things, very casually, but we don't know that it's registering, and it's forming something in the child's head. So you have to watch what you've been saying. You can ask the child, and if possible, she will share with you. I know that the children nowadays are very vocal. They will tell you your life history. If you can hear, you can apologize, and you can just consciously change on what you have been saying. All right. So somebody's asking here, for my 16-year-old son, how can I get through to him when he's being stiff-necked? When he's being stiff-necked.
How did we get here? Yeah, how did we get here? Once again, how did that happen? What is he seeing? Have you answer those questions first? Okay, because I can tell you, begin to have shared interests. Give the child space, but be there. I can walk you through all of that, but then how did we get there? Yeah. Yeah. And I would like you, if possible, to elaborate, if you can please just put a small scenario
Yeah.
of perhaps
Tell
that
us
has
what you mean by
happened.
stiff-necked.
And yeah.
Tell us what you mean by stiff-necked. So while she's elaborating, I'll get another question from Miss. How do you parent a 15-year-old boy who is angry and irritable most mornings? 15-year-old boy who just wakes up angry. He's angry and irritable most mornings.
Anger is not a root emotion, you know. Anger, especially African culture, we anger is the emotion that we label a wide range of other
Yes,
emotions.
everything is anger.
Everything is anger. And so, is it possible for us to understand what you mean by anger? Anger could be, snappy. Could it be anger? Could be reserve.
She
Could
said he's
it be
irritable. She said that
irritable?
he's
Okay?
irritable most mornings.
He's irritable, and um, I'll share with you something that I shared with my daughter. So my middle daughter, we used to say that she wasn't a morning person. And she went on and on. I'm not a morning person. And I needed to talk her through how the words that she speaks actually influence how the day is like. And so you have said it for so long that sudden, even the morning understands that
Like,
you don't like it. And so the morning
brings
is also angry with
you.
you. you know. And so, she then jokes, when she's going to work, the day before she goes to work, before now when she's going to work, she'd say, "Oh gosh, I'm going to work again tomorrow." And then I'd say, "Change that, speak positively." And she's like, "Yes, I have 10 reports, 8 meetings tomorrow." But guess what? She then realized after a few months how she started enjoying going to work. You see, there's power. And so I'm saying to you, is it possible for your child to have early morning confessions, for example? Yeah. Is it possible that first thing in the morning you pray with your child, where you sanctify the atmosphere, right? Because like I said earlier, I strongly believe that for us to be effective parents, we need to be grounded in our faith. There's so many decisions, so many things that we make logical decisions, we make emotional decisions over our children when we ought to be making God-led decisions. And the God-inspired decisions can only come as a result of us being in tandem,
Benefit.
walking with the Holy Spirit. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. So there are
Absolutely.
perhaps dreams, things that the child could be seeing. The child wakes up and yeah. And so sit here, all right? Remember, we talked about investing in your child. Investing in the child is not us saying, why are you angry again? What's wrong with you? Which is our
A typical
typical
African response.
response. Yes. All right? Can you sit in the room? And I've had to do it many times. Can you sit in the room before the child wakes to see how the child wakes? Yeah. All right? These are some of the things that you want to, if you spoke into the atmosphere before the child wakes up, do you notice that certain things have changed in the course of the day? Or do you see certain things changing with the way the child woke that morning?
I mean, as you're talking, I'm just nodding because I can totally relate. I had children that I used to say that are not morning children. Like two of them are early risers. They're upbeat immediately. They wake up, and the other two are very slow. They're like, oh, it's morning. And I always used to really struggle with them. Like, come on, get up. Don't make the other ones late. I always used to feel very frustrated and very angry. But I recently learned that maybe it was even me confessing that they are not morning children that got them to where they are. So I started to, change things. And one of the things I tried to do was to play music to wake them up. So I play music. I go into their room with gospel, and I'm playing it, and I'm waking them up. And they're like, oh, mommy, I don't feel like. I say, yes, 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 you gotta go, you gotta go. You get to go to work, school today, and I just try and find some exciting thing that's happening that day, and they get up. So I found out that, mornings became less and less tedious, for those ones. And I also heard someone say that, instead of you to say, oh, I have to go to work again today, you can say, I get to go to work again today. So, right, when you get to do something, you're like, oh, it's a privilege. You're happy. Even your brain, your mind, your heart, everything just picks up by, oh, I get to go to work today. Because some people don't have a job to go to. While you're there complaining about what you have to do, you get to do it. Oh, I have to pick up the children again. Oh, I have to clean after the children. Some people don't have children. Oh, I get to clean. I'm thankful I get to do this. So that even that thinking just changes things. So, okay, the 16-year-old mommy has responded. She says when he's corrected, he's very defensive and he shuts down. He's also very angry and irritable most days.
Okay.
So,
So direct question, which one of you did he get it from? Which one
my mom said,
did he,
goat's not a born dog.
which one of you, all right? Are you defensive as a mom? Is your partner defensive as a father? When children ask us questions, how do we respond to those questions? Yeah, I believe in Socratic questioning. Okay, you ask open-ended questions. All right, are your children able to ask you open-ended questions? And you, yeah, okay. When you throw that to your child, how does the child respond to it? Okay, yeah. And so these are questions. I always say, and if there's anything we're taking out of here, is let us look at the root.
Inward.
Yes, let's look inwards. Yeah, they not always, but they often pick things up from us. Yeah. And so I would take myself through the x-ray first. Yeah. And to see how I am responding to things.
True.
Yeah.
True. Many times they take things from us. I always used to jokingly say, goat's not a born dog. Every time, if you see a trait in your child, first check yourself that it's not from you, and that's how you know how to deal with it. So we have a question here that says, I read today about kids that were being shown how to commit suicide on various online forums. Such a disturbing narrative. The writer spoke about pre-education of kids. How do you pre-educate on such a sensitive topic? This also applies to sex and other conversations in today's world.
I love this, and I I don't think there's anything that is off limits to be spoken of in my own home. And that's because from very early I understood, that the quality of questions that you ask your children is the quality of response that you would get, and vice versa. Yeah. And so, are you able, and it's back to the roots, many parents are unable to have and hold these conversations. Okay? It is, if you're unable to have these conversations, how do your children ask you those questions? Do you see how it works? Yes. Whether we like it or not, our children know the things that we're open to. All right. Is sex one of those hush topics in your household? Yeah. Are those things that are like forbidden to speak on? We want to raise children who are able to broach almost any and every topic with you, their parent. And this is how you become a primary source of information. Yeah.
True.
You have first movers advantage when you are the one who talks to your child about something. Okay? You become the library that they come to when they have other questions to ask surrounding the subject matter.
True.
And so the question that I ask you is, the children are inhibited to talk about certain things because that platform hasn't been created. So sex, drugs, whatever, we talk about it in our household because nothing is off limits. And trust me when I say there's certain things that I hear as a parent, and I'm reacting on the inside.
Yes, but you
Sometimes
have to keep your face.
cringing on the inside.
Keep your
But
face.
but I need to have a poker face.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So they can
I
continue.
cannot allow my emotions betray me because I have understood the consequences
Of them
of
not
that.
speaking.
Yeah. How do you know? I often say to people, how do you even know what to pray for if you don't have
When you're not
insight?
talking.
Yes. It's your visibility and insight, all right, that makes you. There are times when I'm up at night and it is the conversation that happened in the
Yeah.
afternoon that is my
You're praying
primary
about
prayer point,
more.
because I have heard things that I need divine insight to help resolve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope I,
I,
I
I
hope that
really
question
like
was
that.
answered.
Yes, you've done justice to that, and I must say that your relationship with your children is something I really really admire, and that was what drew me first to you, and I was like, man, let me come and learn how to just create this kind of beautiful family where the children are able to speak to their mother. I mean, you have an adult daughter, and she still comes to you first, and that is just testament to the fact that she has always been coming to you. You've always left the doors open, and as parents, I meet some parents and they say things like, no, my child can't try that. I will give her a slap, I will give her a knock. And I think, hey, there are many things that you need to come to you for. You cannot be that mother that is still giving slap and giving knock. You have to be able to open up, because you have to connect. Connection is everything. You have to connect. And you said something very instructive again, where you said something about them, when you're the first to mention something to them, you get first movers advantage. And I liken that to the law of first mention. Once you're the one who talks to them about something first, no matter where else they hear it from, they will come back and tell you that, mommy, that thing we discussed that day, this is what they were saying in my class. And I taught them the correct thing. So that, I think I've just answered my own question. I asked you initially that how do we raise children that are influencers and not being influenced by friends? So part of it is you're speaking constantly to them. You're talking to them about things that they're going to see ahead. So that when it happens and other children are talking about it, they're like, no, 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 that's not true. My mother said this is how it's supposed to be, or I know this and that and that. And it's really, really, really nice.
Something happened last Sunday. My daughter and I had, so I even want to start this, by saying my husband did say something to me, and one of the things he said to me, I think it was the last 10 days, I can't remember when. He said, "You're my friend, and I'm happy that I can talk to you about my wife." And we had a good laugh, but the truth
About
is,
your wife.
yeah, he can talk to me about his wife. And, he said, you're my friend and I can talk to you about my wife. Do you understand? That sometimes my wife is really being annoying, but then because you're my friend, I can talk,
I love it.
Yeah. But then I also realized that, my children are same. Sometimes my daughter calls me, say, talk, come, 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 come. Do you understand? Yeah, my older daughter, she's she says, talk, come, 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 come. And I'm like, what's the gist? Do you understand? And I like that they know there's a difference between mom and friend.
Mm.
And so something happened last Sunday. My daughter and I on Saturday had spoken extensively about a subject. And then she entered into dialogue with another, maybe subject matter expert.
Mm.
And my daughter said in her head, she was like, my
Mm.
mom, my mom had talked about this and my mom's opinion is different. Do you understand?
And she was
And
questioning
so she
subject
came to
matter
tell me.
expert. Come on.
So she came to tell me, she was like, and I smiled internally because, it's what it is that we're talking about here.
Mm.
Our children being able to trust us. Okay? Yeah. Not trust in the things that we say, but also in the things that we do. The things that we
Mm. Mm.
do, make
Mm.
the things we say, give the things we say credibility.
Mama, just pause, pause, pause. We need to loud that one. Loud it for people at the back. It's not only in the things that we say, but in things that we do. Because
Yeah.
what we do gives what we say credibility.
Credibility.
Please, I need you to speak to parents about this.
Yeah.
Many, many times, my children have called me out. Called me out and they say, I'm talking to you on your phone. Can you drop your phone so that you can talk to me? And I just realized that I'm the one that's always telling them, drop your phone, drop your phone. And I drop the phone, I turn it face down, and I start to speak to them. I realized that you cannot say one thing and do another. These children nowadays, they will call you out. If they are not the talking type, they will just, yimu you in quotes, like, okay. And next time you talk, they're like, because you never do what you say. So as much as possible, our lives need to be such that what we say, we actually do.
Yes.
That way the children will listen when we say things, and we know, instead of them saying, please, that's what she's always doing. She will give us our own instructions. She's doing her own. I remember when I told my children there will be no TV during the week. Like, we would turn off the TV, all of us would not watch, plus me inclusive. I would use that time when they're studying to read a book, to write. That's when I wrote most of my books. I would write in that period. I would do stuff. All of us would be working. We would turn the TV off, and it was easier for them to accept that kind of instruction than if I told them turn off the TV and go and read, and I'll go downstairs and turn on the TV and be watching and laughing because I'm an adult. You are the one still in school, and even though you can actually say that you're the adult, but the truth is that when you're teaching children, you have to model. You have to model, and that's a very powerful one that you said, so that it gives credibility to what you're saying. Okay, okay. I think we finished the questions. Are there any more questions? Okay, sorry. Oh, somebody has said something. Oh, when I'm confused about something, I go back to your post on IG because for every post there's a lesson.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's
Thank
that's thank you for that. Mamo is very
you.
her post her posts. We should just catalog it somewhere because they are really life lessons. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having
And
me.
thank you for the deep words of wisdom. You're just talking small, yet you're just, flogging us. Hi! You don't even need to shout. We're just giving us, but it is okay. We've learned something. So before we leave, I just wanted to welcome everybody for joining. We have this platform. We have this show every week, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Nigerian time. It's Women's Matters. We talk about everything about women, everything that concerns women. This is the month of love, so we're talking about relationships. Next month, we're going to be talking about the month of women. We'll have all kinds of conversations. If you are interested in coming to share your knowledge with us, send me a DM. If you're interested in joining our community, Women's Growth Academy, send me a DM. Mamo, before you leave, tell us one thing you want us to remember. If we forget everything else you said today, what's the one word you want us to take away from today's conversation?
The one word that I'd like you to take, well, not one word, the one sentence that I'd like you to take away is for everything that has a presenting issue, there is a root
There's a root
cause.
cause.
And rather than deal with the presenting, find the perpetuating issue.
Hmm. 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 Somebody has brought last minute question. Oh. How do you help your 4-year-old toddler to be more friendly with her peers? My daughter prefers to be with adults than her peers. Is your daughter a firstborn? This is the firstborn syndrome. How do you help your 4-year-old toddler to be more friendly with her peers? My daughter prefers to be with more adults than her peers. For Amma, is your daughter a firstborn? Can you just share that with us? Yes, she's the first and only girl. Okay. More.
Have we understood that it could be a personality thing? And remember, one of the things that we started with in the course of conversation today is understanding what the child has been encoded with, by God. Yeah. If the child has a preference for staying with adults, expose the child to, perhaps it could be that the child hasn't been exposed to the things that she likes to do with other 4-year-olds. Do you understand? Perhaps the child has a mature mind. Perhaps the child is used to daddy and mommy, and is seeing the world through those lenses, the lenses of interacting with an adult. You don't know. And it is why I think my closing charge was find the root, why this child, because we can go off on a tangent, talking about the plausible reasons for why the child doesn't want to interact with children, all right, if we don't understand what the root reason is, and seek to understand why this child prefers adult company, you know and I want to say that please look into if the child has been bullied or is being bullied by a peer, and seeks safety in being with adults, because the child could have associated peer group interactions with bullying. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. I had a fantastic time, as I'm sure that all
You
of our listeners
are
did.
very
Thank you so much.
much.
We do
Thank
not
you.
take your presence here for granted. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.